We're four friends with hot takes on food media.
And we're here to review and recap all kinds of food shows in bite-sized seasons.
Plus, virtual potlucks, cooking adventures, and food memes.
Welcome to Pod Appétit Gourmet Takes.
Hey, it's Justine.
And it's me, Meg. Welcome to Pod Appétit Gourmet Takes. This season, we're covering Sweet Heat with Rick Martinez, a Food 52 YouTube series. Rick brings us recipes built on his favorite flavor profiles, sweet and heat, from his kitchen in Mazatlan, Mexico. On the menu for today's episode, we have loaded bacon-wrapped hot dogs and Buñuelos with spicy hot chocolate. Hot dogs, hot chocolate, all the hot stuff. But before we get into that, Justine, have you been cooking some hot stuff in the kitchen?
Oh, I've been cooking so much in the kitchen. I went into cooking overload. I'm gonna try and remember. I made a coconut cream pie from Minimalist Baker. Mm-hmm. Folks have seen that on the internet. I made, remember I had those leftover beets still from the beet hummus. So I roasted them, but I roasted them with thyme. And then when they were done roasting, I hit them with some orange zest.
Nice.
Yes. What else did I make? I made Food 52's potato salad with arugula and mustard vinaigrette. And potato salad is the food of my people. I feel it. I will eat potato salad every day if I could.
I love potato salad. Arugula is so good too. Love arugula. It's probably my favorite green.
Good. You gotta make it. It's so good. And then yesterday I made something, but it came out ugly, so I don't think I'll post it. It's one of those things. I don't know if there's a word for it. It's ugly but tastes good.
Ugly Delicious on Netflix.
Oh, wow. I still think they would be like, ooh. It's a chickpea pot pie, but done in a casserole dish with a biscuit top. So basically what makes it ugly is that my biscuit top was still white-ish. It didn't get a golden-y color. So I don't know. It's weird looking in the picture. It's kind of looks like raw chicken on top of pot pie. I know. But it tasted really good.
Yeah, it sounds very beige. Mm-hmm. Beige food. I'm sure it tasted great, though.
Yeah. I used frozen veggies, and the only thing I had to really cut up were potatoes and then, onions. Everything else was frozen veggies, and, it's totally saved on time.
Awesome. Well, share some of those recipes with me.
I will. What have you been cooking? I feel like I saw some sneaky things on somebody else's profile that you may have made.
Yes, my mom is taking over my Instagram game for me. For Mother's Day, I made lemon blueberry scones, which is my mom's own recipe. It's a tried and true recipe. It's in the family cookbook. So it's scones made with buttermilk and fresh blueberries. There's lemon zest, lemon juice. You put a bunch of the lemons in the glaze. So you put this nice lemony glaze on top. Very tasty. And I made a sort of quasi afternoon tea for Mother's Day. So I made the scones and then I bought a lot of little treats from Trader Joe's. So Trader Joe's has these really cute little mousse cakes, chocolate mousse cakes shaped like flowers that had a little bit of icing on top. They were really cute. Trader Joe's version of Mother's circus animals, essentially those pink and white sprinkle cookies.
Oh, yeah.
Some lemon madeleines. And also Trader Joe's has this great new product. I'm sure it will only be around for a little while because it's one of those things that they try and then take away. But it's ube pretzels, which are really good. So these little purple ube pretzels, if they are still available, I will recommend them. Go get some. So it was a very lovely Mother's Day. And sometime
your mom said you made all those things.
No, I made the scones and the rest were purchased. I put it all together, though, and it was very cute.
It was.
I also made swirled blackberry lavender sheet cake. This is a recipe by Half Baked Harvest. It was so good. So this is fluffy white cake. You swirl it with your own homemade blackberry lavender jam. So you just get fresh or frozen blackberries and you mix in dried lavender with some honey and some lemon. So it's this really tasty jam. I had some left over, so that was pretty tasty for drizzling over the cake as you're eating it, or even just putting on biscuits or toast or whatever, because I did have some left over. And on the top of the cake is this vanilla white chocolate frosting. So you melt some white chocolate and you whip it up into this frosting. It was super good.
Oh my God. And it's getting us a ton of views on our Instagram reels because it looks so delicious.
Yeah. Get those reels.
I was at the farmer's market yesterday and I saw for the first time in my life mulberries.
Oh, mm-hmm. Did you get some?
I did not. I you know, when you see something you never see and it's like, oh, I'm interested in that, but I don't know like what quantities to get, like what I could make with it. Do you think I should?
Maybe. I was going to say, I feel like they mention gooseberries all the time on Bridgerton, but I don't know if that's the same thing. It's probably not. All right, let's move on to Sweet Heat. Our first episode we're talking about today is loaded bacon-wrapped hot dogs. The YouTube description is, Food 52's resident sugar man Rick Martinez is back to level up your hot dog game. This dish brings it with soft bolillo rolls topped with melty cheese, crispy bacon-wrapped dogs smothered in chori beans, spicy pickled jalapeno mayo for a kick of heat, and topped with a secret ingredient, crushed potato chips.
And almost forgot the spicy mayo.
When he was plating it, I was like, wait, where's the mayo? And I thought I was going crazy, but then it turned out he just forgot to add it.
I saw similar comments along that line of like, I was freaking out when you almost forgot the mayo.
Don't forget the most important element, Rick. This is funny because this is our third video in a row where he doesn't have an added sweet element. He says the sweet thing is just the naturally sweet vegetables and the chipotle. And in our previous episode, there was also no added sweet. So I'm totally fine with that. I think this recipe looks delicious, but I think it's kind of funny to see how the conceit of the show maybe actually isn't that sustainable. I feel like it is, but it's kind of funny that we just happened to select 3 episodes where there's not really a sweet element.
I was thinking that too. It might be a good question to ask him, or maybe we already did ask him.
Oh yeah, by the time you listen to this, we will have already talked with Rick live on Reddit. And maybe you did too. Who knows? Who knows how this time thing works?
Time travel. Ugh. No, I agree with you. Sometimes when he does these, I'm just like, okay, spicy, 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 and then there's another spicy. I can't handle it.
Yeah, it makes me wonder how much of the production is, Food 52 being like, we really want you to make this sweet thing, and Rick going along with it versus Rick taking control of the show and being like, I want to make this spicy recipe, so I'm going to do it.
Yeah. So this is Rick's version of like a loaded hot dog. And as he put it, quote, so much crap on it.
It's absolutely massive. So I really enjoyed this episode because I love a Sonoran hot dog. And as he mentions in the episode, the type of Mexican hot dog that Americans are probably most familiar with is the Sonoran hot dog, just because there's tends to be a lot of Sonoran Mexican food in America. And that's been my experience. And I lived in Arizona Southwest for several years. So I've had many a Sonoran dog in my time. And he mentions that this loaded dog is mostly inspired by Mazatlan foods and street vendors. But he also said, there's various styles of this hot dog everywhere throughout Mexico. And instead of trying to make one very specific style, he was just kind of like, oh, I like this element from this region, and I like this element from this region. So he kind of picked and chose what he liked to make this sort of chimera hot dog of his own creation.
The only loaded hot dog I'm familiar with is a Chicago-style hot dog.
Chicago dogs are also good. I like that kryptonite green relish that you put on those things.
Ooh, yes.
The main differences I saw between Rick's hot dog and a Sonoran hot dog is that Sonoran dogs tend to have pinto beans instead of black beans, and they usually have cojita cheese and served with or alongside blistered banana peppers. Those were the main differences I saw between these styles.
You know, I got confused in this because he kept saying chori beans, and it took me a while till he was actually putting it together, and I was like, oh, he means chorizo.
Yes.
Because there's a lentil for dal, for Indian food, called chori. So I was like, you're using chori in this?
It's just his own little portmanteau. Chorizo beans.
No, I got it. I got it halfway through. I'm there. I really like the B-roll they did in this episode when they were showing each of the ingredients. I think this is so helpful for us to visually recognize these foods. The only thing is I would like text of the ingredient next to it for like better word association, and especially since the lav mic wasn't working for this episode, it was a little hard for me to understand all of everything he was saying.
I agree, because the buns, the rolls that he used, are apparently called bolillos, which I wasn't familiar with. So that was one thing where it took me, a couple of iterations of him saying the word and context clues for me to be like, oh, he's talking about the buns. I think he picked them up at one point, and then it was like, oh, it's obvious now what he's talking about. But yeah, I agree. A little bit more direction sometimes might be helpful.
I wrote it down. I was like, okay, cheese on the bun, bacon on the hot dog, chorizo with the beans, onions and jalapenos, tomatoes and avocados, cilantro, potato chip, spicy mayo.
Yes, that was the whole cross-section of the hot dog.
Somewhere in there's a hot dog.
Wrapped in bacon. Yeah, this looked delicious to me. If I'm ever going to break my vegetarianism, it might have to be for a loaded hot dog.
Yeah, there's no replicating that bacon.
There's really not. I've had a pretty good vegan hot dog, but I haven't had good vegan bacon, in my opinion. I think you could easily make this recipe exactly as Rick has made it, but just add less to the final plating. And then maybe you could actually get your mouth around it. That's maybe my one criticism.
Yeah.
I don't know how I would eat this the way that Rick has plated it.
Exactly. I was like, how are you going to eat this? Also, if you don't pile it on top, you'll have room for more dogs. Like, you can make more.
That's true. I feel like this might be a trend in this season. The fried tomato sandwiches also seemed a bit massive.
I looked on the recipe website and there were no reviews at the bottom, so I can only assume that no one has actually made this.
Oh, someone should.
Will that someone be you?
Tune in and find out in a few weeks. I've been writing notes for every episode about Rick's look for the video. So in this one, he has a lemon shirt and very bold, abstract nails. I think we should have a power ranking at the end of the best Rick looks of the season.
I need a full, Pinterest board of, Rick-inspired ensembles.
A Rick lookbook? Yeah, totally.
I love the lemon shirt. I want one.
I know, it was so cute.
I'm gonna ask him, where do you get your clothes?
He should do a clothing partnership. That's what he should do.
Yes. Yes. Everybody wants it. Just put it out, a clothing line. I need the merch.
All right, that's all of our thoughts on hot dogs. We're going to take a quick commercial break here, and we will be right back to talk about hot chocolate. And we're back. Our next episode of Sweet Heat that we're talking about is Buñuelos with spicy hot chocolate. YouTube says, the weather may be warm in Mazatlan, but New Year's Eve still means buñuelos and spicy hot chocolate in Rick's house. The trick to the sweet, perfectly crisp rounds of fried dough is vegetable shortening, and the spices and heat in his Mexican hot chocolate will have everyone asking for more. So this was a New Year's video. Came out, I believe, in December 2020. And he said that this recipe was really inspired by one of his favorite food memories, which was visiting his grandmother on New Year's Eve. And when he would arrive at her home, he was greeted by the scent of these fried dough and cinnamon sugar and hot chocolate. So that's a nice little recipe. And he talked about how it was a family tradition that's been passed down, and he's hoping that maybe some of his viewers will adopt this tradition as well.
Ain't nothing wrong with fried dough.
I mean, everyone loves fried dough. Who doesn't?
Yeah.
It's a universal thing we can all get behind.
I wouldn't have it at New Year's, but I had it, of course, going to carnivals. I think in the East Coast, they're called elephant ears.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you get a drizzle of chocolate sauce.
This is definitely the same flavor profile as a churro, although I like churros better because they're kind of chewy and soft on the inside, but I'm sure I would love these. So unlike the first episode we just talked about with the hot dogs, which was very spicy, this one is very sweet. We have that piloncillo again, which is the sort of packed sugar. He also uses regular granulated sugar, the chocolate, the cinnamon sugar combo. Lots of sugar here.
Yeah, this is more my style. I'm like, yes, more sweet, a little bit of heat.
Just a little bit of heat from the cascabel chilies, I believe is what they were called, which he put in the hot chocolate.
Where are we going to find these chilies in our Ralphs?
You have to find a Mexican grocer.
All right, I will do that. I'll be like, no, this is too much. It's too hot.
One of each chili. So this one, it looks like, is easily veganizable.
You see how much vegetable shortening? I've never seen so much vegetable shortening in my life.
He called it a chunk. I called it an iceberg. Like, that could sink the Titanic.
Yeah, that's more than what comes in a single package of shortening.
Oh, the vegetable shortening.
But yeah, definitely. Vegetable shortening is a good substitute in baking to make things vegan. Although I think I would need to buy out all the shortening in LA to get that much.
So I have a question for you. I wasn't really able to find the answer online. Maybe you know. But is there a difference between canela and cinnamon, or is that just the Spanish word for cinnamon? Because he tended to talk about them a little differently, I thought. But as far as I could tell, they're both cinnamon. I wasn't sure.
I don't know, and I should have did my research on this. I just basically went into it being like, Rick, I didn't watch the episode before this episode where apparently you did explain what this ingredient was.
Oh,
but
I
you're
see.
just referencing, oh yeah, in the last episode I used this, so I'm using this again. And I'm like, excuse me, sir. I don't know what you're doing. I didn't watch the last episode.
I didn't realize there was missing context that they had provided for us. Otherwise, I would have watched that too.
Maybe it's just a different form or variety of like a cinnamon stick. They look very similar.
Yeah, maybe it's like a regional variety or something.
Yeah, like how they have like Mexican oregano.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so that caused me to be like a little teensy bit lost. So I won't rate this video as high in my Rick rankings.
The dough looked really tasty. It looked pretty easy to make.
Mm-hmm.
I am not the best with the rolling pin, though. I feel like I need to work on my rolling pin technique. He just made it look so easy. Maybe it's an easy dough for rolling. I'm not sure.
Maybe, as long as you get it to be the right texture. The hardest part is when you're mixing it together. And I learned this when I made Totino's, the Justinos pizza rolls.
Mm-hmm.
Like I made that dough twice because I wasn't patient enough to keep working it because I was like, oh no, this is too dry. And so I add water. And then once you overwater, you're done. It's ruined.
Yeah.
So like that's really the key point to making it not be like an over sticky dough. And it'll take a minute to really come together.
And then there's the kneading process as well, which also makes it nice and smooth and pliable and really cohesive. And I don't think he said exactly how long to knead it, just until it gets to the desired consistency. But it looks like a beautiful soft dough. He used the slap technique to get out some frustrations and to develop the gluten.
Yeah, I definitely think that these videos do show you a good way to do things and are instructional, but they aren't like too instructional. They are entertaining, and you can go to the website link for the recipe to get like, okay, do this for 5 minutes and this goes on for 10 minutes,
I think it's a very good companion series because, like you said, you do get the full recipe. It's not behind a paywall or anything. You can just go to the Food 52 website and get very detailed instructions. But where video instruction really comes in handy, and just in cooking in general, is that a lot of the indicators for how something should be are visual. Like, it should look like this. It should smell like this. Obviously, we can't get the smell from the video, but he can at least talk about that in the video. So we'll get these clues and indicators that'll help us make the recipe if we do want to make it.
Yeah, it really helps when you're making stuff that it's like, do this until thick. Do this until, like,
Yeah.
you see a ribbon, like those sort of stuff. Or until done. Like, that's like a direction that if you're a new cook, you're gonna be like, how will I know?
I do think this video would be very helpful for the frying, because frying is a bit intimidating, especially when you're working with that much oil and you're like, what's under fried? What's over fried? So we get to see these nice, puffy, crispy, golden browned buñuelos at the end. I think they looked delicious. I want to reach through the screen and eat some of those.
And I think it's also really helpful to notice what tools that he's using, because they aren't going to be tools that you probably regularly have in your kitchen, and you might need some specialty things, which aren't always listed like at the top of a recipe. They don't always list like, here are the specialty tools that you'll need. It'll be somewhere in the body of it and be like, and use your something, your fine mesh chemise, like, and you'd be like, I don't have that. Run to Target.
I did have a small criticism of this video, and actually of one of the videos we talked about last time, which was the twice baked sweet potatoes, which is that this is a New Year's episode. The sweet potatoes one was the so-called resolution episode. So there's a little bit of talk of like, oh, we've been so bad around the holidays. So we've been eating so many calories and indulging so much. But, come the new year, we're going to eat all veggies and we're going to eat healthy now. And I feel like this is maybe an outdated mentality that we hear a lot, but I'm not the biggest fan of viewing food as either a reward or a punishment. So I could have done without the calorie talk in this video.
Yeah, it's only going to give you more like negative effects.
Yes. One thing that I really like about Carla Lawley Music's food ethos, I guess, is that she was saying in the Borderline Salty podcast, which Rick is also a host of, that she really wants to instill in her kids just like a love of eating and cooking without the sort of like hangups of like, I need to think about all the calories I'm consuming and stuff. Especially when you're cooking at home, I feel like that's maybe something that you don't necessarily need to concern yourself with as much. Of course, you can make unhealthy food at home, or like food that's just like not going to be good for you personally. But I don't know. Maybe we should just talk about food and food shows and how to make the recipe and enjoying said food without worrying about it.
I mean, this affects us. I mean, as you know, it affected like my life personally of like, oh, I got sick from eating the same types of packaged foods over and over again, which I thought were healthy. So veering towards just fresh foods as much as possible, variety of foods as much as possible, like that's the quote unquote diet I'm striving for. I think that can apply across the board to anybody. And I mean, and you don't have to hurt yourself, struggle trying to do it. You don't have to be mad at yourself if there's no such thing as like a cheat day. Like, it's just food you need to eat, you need to live, and don't stress yourself out about it, because that stress also causes issues.
Yeah, I guess I would just circle back to what I said about I don't like the reward punishment thought process behind food. Like, I'm going to reward myself with food. I'm going to punish myself because of food I've eaten. That type of thought process. Yeah,
it can definitely lead to, I mean, self-harm tactics, but with, food. That's a dark road. Anywho, I thought this episode was definitely the epitome of sweet and heat.
Way to put a button on it.
Bringing it back. Come
in
with me.
summary.
I'm dragging you along.
Look tasty. Frying with that much oil is still intimidating to me, so I think it's unlikely that I will make this, but I'm not sure.
What about the hot chocolate?
The hot chocolate looked good. If I could find some of those chilies, I think that would be a pretty tasty thing to make.
Nice.
So I don't know the crew well enough yet at this point. I don't remember the cameraman's name. I don't know everyone who's in that room with Rick at the moment. But whoever it was, I apologize, but they were zooming in on the hot chocolate and they're like, it just looks like a lot of milk with wood floating in it. It's like, well, maybe because that's what it is. It's a lot of milk with some wood floating in it.
Very observant. I love it. Say what you see.
Oh, the Rick look of this episode was a white, bright floral shirt with also sea turtles on it.
Ooh.
I thought it was really neat.
Man, to be Rick Martinez.
And speaking of the crew, at some point a disembodied arm reaches out from out of frame and adjusts his collar.
Yeah.
You have your own makeup team. It's great.
There's also a disembodied arm that grabs a bowl. Just all these arms.
All these mystery crew members. All right, that's all we have to say about Sweet Heat for this episode. So let's move on to the back burner. Another former Bon Appetit personality, Gaby Melian, has a new cookbook coming out soon. It's from America's Test Kitchen Kids, Gaby's Latin American Kitchen. So this is for young chefs ages 8 and up, and it will be available in August of this year.
That's so interesting that Gaby has found this market. Somewhat seems out of nowhere based off of, you know, videos she's posted in the past or even just like her Instagram presence. Although I can't say I've been following it too closely.
Same.
How do you feel?
It's interesting because I feel like Gaby was in this space that not a lot of the other Bon Appetit personalities were, because she's not a professional cook or chef or recipe developer. She was the test kitchen manager at Bon Appetit. So that meant a lot of inventory, a lot of organizational skills. So, you know, she has made empanadas several times and that type of thing, but cooking maybe isn't necessarily her number one skill. So I think it's interesting that she has leveraged her time at Bon Appetit to go into a more food-focused market. And I wonder if maybe one reason why this is a kid's book is that, you know, her cooking's, she's not a chef, so her cooking skills or her recipes might not be as developed as maybe some of the other chefs we've been following. So it's like, oh, here's some simple recipes for kids to do. So more power to her. I'm glad she's finding something to do with this Bon Appetit experience. But I do like some of her videos on YouTube that are like organizational skills, because I feel like that's where she really, really shines. I would like to see maybe some more of that, like what you can do to have your kitchen run smoothly, how you should set up your own kitchen at home, what must-have tools you should have. Like you were saying, Justine, you weren't sure what sort of specialty tools you might need for a recipe. Maybe she could tell us like, oh, here's a tool you've maybe never heard of before, but here's all these different uses for it, that type of thing.
Yeah, that is so needed. I know I'm reorganizing my kitchen. LJ's reorganizing her kitchen. Like, yeah, if there's a one-stop shop for all this information, like, I want it.
I do think that that could be a good use of her YouTube channel. And she has, to some extent, used it for like, oh, here's my skills as test kitchen manager. Here's how you can translate that to your home kitchen.
All right, yeah. Another one in cookbook season.
We have another cookbook. So many cookbooks. This one is from Nadiya Hussain. We did a whole season about her show on Netflix, Nadiya Bakes. Her new book coming out is called Everyday Baking, and it's going to be available to us here in the US in September.
Do you think Netflix will do another series? Because, you know, Time to Eat, that was a cookbook. Nadiya Bakes, that was a cookbook.
Oh, yeah, maybe. She actually has a lot more cookbooks than I realized. So I don't know if she's going to get a show deal for every single book, but, you know, I would watch it if she did.
Nadiya is so fun to watch. She's just so, like, bright and cheery and comforting.
Yes. Very fun personality, especially to watch on shows. And this cookbook looks beautiful. Looks just as bright and cheery as Nadiya Bakes did.
Yeah, I can't wait. September? Is it September?
September.
So many are coming out in September. Like, save your pennies now.
Or there's usually some really good pre-order specials. Like I got Mi Cocina for 25% off for a pre-ordering special. So keep your eyes out for things like that. And yes, we're circling back to Rick Martinez. So at time of recording, we will be doing our Reddit talk with Rick tomorrow. So make sure you're subscribed to us in your favorite podcatcher, because we'll be dropping that recording of our chat with Rick Martinez in our feed next Monday when you listen to this. Some shout outs this week. Speaking of Reddit talks, we would like to thank Jessie Sheehan and Frankie Gaw for doing Reddit talks with us recently. Jessie Sheehan's talk dropped in our feed last week, so be sure to check it out there. And Frankie's talk will drop in our feed on June 6th. Thank you also to the Minimalist Baker for giving props to Justine's beautiful coconut cream pie, which was made from the Minimalist Baker's own recipe.
You know, I'm such a fan, and I have been for years, a Minimalist Baker, because, you know, when you can make stuff with just 10 ingredients or around that number, like, so easy. So I'm so, like, jazzed that they like that I make their stuff.
And if you like the stuff that we make, in other words, if you like our podcast, leave us a review on your favorite podcatcher. And if you leave us a review, we will read it right here on the show, and we will thank you. Also, we do have merchandise. If you go to podappetit.threadless.com, you can get some merch and rep your Pod Appétit love. All right, coming up next, we are taking a small break for Memorial Day, but we will be back at you with a new Sweet Heat episode on June 20th. And in the meantime, there will be lots of recordings of our live Reddit talks dropping into our pod feed, so make sure you're subscribed. But when we do come back to you, the next Sweet Heat videos that we will be covering are Huevos Rancheros with chorizo and porky beans, and finally, you won't believe they're vegan carnitas tacos.
Ooh, vegan food.
Vegan food.
All right, thank you for listening.
All right, catch us on Reddit and here. Bye.
Bye. Thanks for listening to Pod Appétit Gourmet Takes.
We'd love to hear from you, so find us on Twitter and Instagram at pod_appétit. And on Facebook at Pod Appétit Podcast.
You can also email us at podappetitpodcast@gmail.com and find all of our episodes on our website, podappetitpodcast.com.
This wasn't your typical case. What really got me were the inconsistencies, the lies, the malice. The deeper I dove in, the more questions I had. Like, how the F did we elect Trump? We talk about this and more on our podcast, Feminists Without Mystique, where we discuss politics, pop culture, and sex. Because what's spookier than the attempted murder of our democracy?